Looks like there's still a little bit of a delay here with the streaming, but it's down to about a 15-second delay. So we'll give everyone a couple minutes here to get in, and then we will get going. So we will see if this actually keeps up with the number of viewers and stuff. If we have any issues, let me know. I do have a different thing open to stream this, so it is different than we've normally done it. So if you see any problems, just drop in chat, let me know, and then we can try to correct them for our next time. So right now, it does show we have decent connection and that there are no issues. We do have one person on. We will see if that stays true if we get more people. I will try to keep an eye on this as well. Alright, so we've let about a minute go by. We can probably get going here. So we will cover the Dixie for the daily, or actually we'll give it a couple minutes because we did say that it would start at 6:15, so we'll give it about 4 more minutes here and see if anyone joins. Just in case they had their notifications, I don't want to start and someone wanted to see the whole thing. Don't want to start ahead of time and then them be like, hey, I waited till 6:15 and I missed out. So we can try to schedule it for a little bit sooner for the future ones. That way we can schedule it like a couple minutes before we actually go live, and then we can just hit the ground running. So on a positive note, if anyone has not heard the news, we have had the ETH ETFs get approved today as well. That approval could help us with altcoins because ETH ETFs getting the green light from the SEC means people are going to be less risk adverse to Ethereum because now it's going to be approved by the SEC. There may be a little bit less of a risk with it being bad. I do see we did drop connection here, it shows. Let's see if I can move my mouse a bit and see if that does actually show up or not. Right now it says there's no data. Yeah, that is showing on, alright, couple different delays it looks like, but that is working. But back to that news, the ETH news, it does look like it kind of had a lag when the new viewer joined, so thank you for joining us. Apparently that's just going to be a quirk we get. It'll look like it drops out when new people join, so I'll have to keep an eye on that. But that ETH news does help try to push us forward, because that is the green light from the SEC saying Ethereum is not a security, meaning that we could end up trading with it with bigger institutions, just like we saw Bitcoin. But I would just watch because they have kind of hinted that they may try to go after staked Ethereum. So there is the two differences there. So we will get going. It's been about 4 minutes now. So over on the Dixie, we are pushing to that 105 area. We did get rejected, so that could be very positive for us. Remember, as Dixie goes up, crypto typically goes down. So if Dixie does solidify a rejection of that 105 area, it's very likely we would round away and see a sell-off. From here, we do have this reversal arrow suggesting that, so I would watch. Our stochastic, our double line, is starting to round away, so our orange is above blue and we do want to sell off. Our RSI does want to kind of start to round here, so if that RSI does round and drop off here, we will see price action start to correct. Our VWAP does currently have a lower high. We do have higher lows though, so we do have a slight bullish trend trying to form, but if that VWAP solidifies a lower high, we will see that blue wave, our momentum, round away. And as that momentum rounds away, our green wave, our money flow, will go from being bullish into the red, being bearish under that zero. So I would watch, as that could end up breaking us lower. So we will jump here over to the 4 hour. Over on the 4 hour, we do have a bit of a bearish scenario. We're getting a little bit of a rounding top after getting that rejection there. Our stochastic is starting to pull back. It does look like the delay is a little less. RSI is pulling back, momentum is rounding away. We do have a red dot there. VWAP does want to break down, and the money flow is starting to pull back. So as that yellow wave, our VWAP does pull back, momentum will continue to sell off. That red dot could get solidified, and if that red dot does get solidified, we will see our money flow, that green wave, pull back and head towards zero. And if it does not sustain above that 0, that's where we would see it break red and become bearish, meaning we would have a bearish trend on the 4-hour and more bearish pressure, meaning people are selling off more than they are buying. So over on the 2-hour here, you do have that rounding top, and now we're going sideways. So the sideways action could create a little mini bear flag. That mini bear flag could drop us lower. It does look like my video capture did kind of disappear on us, so that is kind of weird. So we'll have to figure out why that's not showing up. That does show on my screen that it's there, but it's just not showing up today. But I would watch out. Stochastic is pulling back. RSI is pulling back. Our momentum is rounding away, and the VWAP is selling off. I can try. Yeah, that did not help. So I'll have to see why this video capture is not working. It appears my webcam isn't really connecting either. So we do have a little goofiness going on there. But hopefully things are decent. We don't have very much lag right now between the two things I'm watching. Our stochastic is pulling back. RSI is pulling back. VWAP is starting to sell off. Momentum does want to round away, and the money flow is pulling back. So overall, we do have some bearish pressure forming here, and we could solidify a rejection, which could push us lower. We likely would get hung up right around this 105, 268 or 66 zone. If we do pull back to that range and we cannot make a bounce, that's where we could see that bearish pressure. That bearish pressure could then take us to our 300 EMA. And if we do not make a strong bounce off that 300 EMA, it's likely we could continue lower. Momentum is rounding off. Our RSI is pulling back. Stochastic is oversold. And the VWAP is getting lower lows with lower highs. So we do have a bearish trend on VWAP bringing momentum down. And if that continues, money flow will continue to sell off. And remember, because of that inverse relationship, as Dixie sells off, crypto would recover. So over on the total for the daily, we did reject that double bottom possibility. So we will delete this as that is no longer in play. We did warn you that if we did not see a strong move forward, we likely would end up at the bottom side of our golden pocket. So hopefully you were watching for that move and it didn't catch you off guard. The positive thing here with this indecision doji candle is if we don't break down through this golden pocket here and we do see a bounce forward, that could push us higher and invalidate any potential of revisiting low areas like this flag had mapped out for us in the past. We will delete this flag as well if I can grab the proper thing here. So delete that flag and we'll delete the breakdown. But if we do lose the bottom of our golden pocket on this Fibonacci retracement zone, we will see a pullback to that 300 EMA here. And if we cannot make a bounce off that 300 EMA, that is at our 55.3. So 553, if we do not make a bounce at that 553 billion, then we could push down toward that 502 area. And again, if we don't get a bounce there, this is our previous bear market channel where we did break down from the last cycle. So if we don't hold that Fibonacci level, we could pull back into that support range from that previous cycle, right around that 458. That is despite that Ethereum news we covered. Remember that Ethereum news, while it is positive for crypto and can push us up, it won't happen right away, and we could end up dropping down a little beforehand. It does take a couple months. It's not going to act right away. So over on the 4-hour, we do have lower highs with lower lows. That could be a saving move for us. Remember, that does create a descending channel, but this channel really doesn't connect very well. So I will delete that channel. That is more of a bearish consolidation channel then. So I would watch if we do break that golden pocket bottom, we will see a drop lower as that continuation does show the bears have more strength. Our VWAP does have lower lows with lower highs. RSI is pulling back. The stochastic wants to pull back with it. And the momentum is selling off due to our VWAP getting the lower highs with lower lows, causing money flow to pull back. If this does not reverse, that daily will continue to weaken. Over on the 2-hour, we do have a bit of a rounding bottom. We are trying to retest the top of this previous cycle high. So if we cannot break through this area, it's very likely we would round away and then continue down to that previous cycle low. Remember, that's way down there at that 455. but we do need to break those other support areas we mentioned tonight. RSI is pulling back, stochastic wants to round away. VWAP is in the bearish territory. It could reject here. If we do reject or make a lower high, I would watch, as that would create a bearish trend. That bearish trend would cause momentum to continue to pull back, and money flow will continue to sell off then. Over on the 1 hour, stochastic is trying to push up. RSI is pulling back. The VWAP does want to round away. Momentum is in the bearish territory, and the money flow is selling off. If that VWAP cannot regain strength here, we will see that momentum start to round away, and then we will see that money flow break down. That would result in a sell-off here. So over on Bitcoin dominance for the daily, we are going sideways from our channel, so we could still see a break away from here, but I would just watch. That sideways action could also create a bull flag. If we do create a bull flag here, that would be positive. That could help push dominance up. But that would just mean people are buying Bitcoin ahead of stablecoins and our altcoins. Our stochastic does want to pull back. We could look at this if you want to zoom out here. We could look at the weekly. If we jump back to the weekly, we do have this big breakdown here that is from 2020. So since 2020, we do have a highs around 2019 as well. We have not seen dominance be this high. That was at about a 70%. But again, we do have more altcoins entering the market from cycle to cycle, so that could affect dominance in an effect as well, providing those projects hold their value and they're not just pump and dumps. So that's a big zoom out. That does mean we could pull up. We could hit about that 58.25, and if we can break through that, we may try to see a big spike in Bitcoin dominance again. But the whole 2022 cycle, we really didn't get Bitcoin dominance that high. It is higher than we have seen throughout this bear market. This is a push up. This is hopefully better because we did see like meme coin mania. And that's the big concern is, are we going to see meme coins pump everything besides our altcoins, because altcoins haven't pumped much? Again, I say that we may see a pump up depending on a few months from now, if that ETH ETF news continues to carry weight like it did for the Bitcoin ETF news. But we do have a red candle here. We did reject just shy of that value area high. If we cannot break through that value area high, we would round away. Our stochastic is starting to pull back. We do have that orange above blue. RSI is starting to pull back as a result, so I would watch. If that stochastic does break down, RSI will lead dominance lower, and then we could see altcoins jump ahead of Bitcoin, or we could see everything roll into stable coins if our altcoins sell off as well, and we do have that potential. Momentum does want to round away here. RSI is pulling back. Money flow is kind of flat, but if that VWAP does continue to break down and we get a lower low here, our momentum will round away with that double red dot, and we will see money flow start to weaken as a result. So, over on the 4 hour here, we are somewhat chopping sideways. You could draw that flag here on the 4 hour. You just wouldn't be able to draw a bull flag on the daily. So we do have 2 touches to the bottom if you don't count that freak breakdown here. If you do count that freak breakdown, that does put this in jeopardy because we got 3 touches to the top. If you don't count that, then we technically only have 2 if you don't count all that action right there. And you're just looking at here. But I will count that, so I would exercise caution. If we cannot see dominance make a bounce near where it is right now, then it's likely we would see dominance sell off. Momentum is starting to break into the bearish territory. VWAP does want to round away. Stochastic is rounding. RSI is pulling back. So I would watch. If this continues and we don't get that bounce, we could push down right around that 54.89. Right near that 300 EMA level. So remember that 300 EMA is a strong support resistance from our market cipher A. So over on Bitcoin futures, remember we aren't really going to go too deep in the lower time frames on dominance, but over on Bitcoin futures, we did invalidate our double bottom possibility as well. We did say to watch for a strong bounce, and we did not get that strong bounce. So overall, we did see that rejection, and we did push down to our 65.5 like we were warning about. So hopefully that didn't catch you too off guard. So you're probably wondering, where will we go now? We did break that point in control on the fixed range volume profile here, and the next likely stop would be our next support, which is 61,790, which is also near the value area low of that fixed range volume profile. So that's pretty much our next stop if we do not get support here at that 65.5. If we do get support at the 65.5, we could still create a higher low here with higher highs, and as these probably would not connect very well, we can draw that out, bring this down, and then stretch this out a little bit. Actually, those do connect pretty well, so I would exercise caution because them connecting well creates a rising channel. You would measure from top to bottom, and rising channels sound good, but they can break you down, and that breakdown could take us down to that 56K range, right near that other gap that we have been warning about. So we do have this gap zone back here, right around that 61, just under that Fibonacci level or that support level. We are overall pushing down. If we don't meet support at either of those levels, we do have this gap at that 48K. So we do have a strong drop we could make right there if we're not careful. I hope no one's having connection issues. I do keep noticing a viewer jumping in and out, so hopefully you're not having connection issues. Drop some in chat, let me know if you are, and then I could tweak some settings. But over on the 4 hour here, we are overall pushing down. We did break that 300 EMA, so that's not very positive. If we can't stay above that 300 EMA, it's very likely the bears would gain control and we would see this channel break down. Momentum does have higher lows though. VWAP does have consistent lows with lower highs. So while the momentum's trying to make a bullish trend, our VWAP is staying in its bearish trend, and if it remains in that bearish trend, momentum will start to break down and money flow would reject. That would then affect that higher time frame and break it lower. RSI does want to pull back here. I'll move this over a little bit so you can see it better. Sorry about that. Our RSI is pulling back, stochastic does want to drop down. That momentum, like we said, does have higher highs, and that VWAP is pretty consistent, but it does have lower highs. So if that VWAP continues to reject here, momentum would continue lower, and that money flow would go from being red deeper into the red. So we are trying to pull into the green, and we would see that red round away, drop down. That would weaken that daily. That daily is weakening very quickly, so I would exercise caution. But remember, a quick sell-off is always retraced by a bounce forward. So while we do have this bearish channel possibility, I would still watch these lower time frames. If they start breaking bullish, we could see a push forward. Stochastic does want to bounce here. VWAP is trying to gain some strength. Momentum is getting lower lows with lower highs. That is causing that VWAP to break down, and money flow is weakening as a result. So overall, I would exercise caution. We are trying to make a bounce here. If we can solidify a bounce at the 65.5 area, that would be very positive. We could then try to rerun to our 300 EMA, and then we would want to break and hold above that 68K range, which is also a psychological support resistance, in order to push to our next psychological support resistance of 69K. If we're able to regain all that momentum, then we may still be able to run to higher highs, but that would not be based on a pattern right now, so I really couldn't give you a breakup possibility. We have seen ranges from 72K up to 80K, so take your pick there. VWAP is breaking bearish overall, momentum's breaking down, money flow is selling off on this 2 hour, so I would exercise caution. If that VWAP continues to sell off, momentum will continue lower, and that money flow will continue to break down. Over on the 1 hour here, we are trying to solidify that bounce. We did get a little bit of a pull back with that red candle. That red candle then got followed by a strong green candle, but we are struggling to hold above that green EMA. If we cannot break and hold above this green EMA, then it's very likely we could continue lower. If you're wondering why there's no video, we don't have that working right now. Sorry about that. That kind of disappeared when we connected the two channels. That VWAP does have lower lows. We do want to round away, so I would exercise caution. If that VWAP does break down, we will see momentum continue lower, and as that momentum would continue lower, that our money flow would reject. That would then weaken those higher time frames and give that daily the breakdown possibility to push us down below those support areas of that 61,790 and around that 56K, right where that gapped area was that we just covered. So we will jump to Bitcoin for the daily. We did have that bullish possibility, but we did invalidate it just like we did on futures. So we will delete this now. Actually, I will wait because we could see an invalidation. This could be one of those whale moves where they try to drop us down and then we see a strong bounce. So I would watch lower time frames. If those lower time frames can remain more bullish, we could have that scenario, but still watch for a breakdown like we mentioned on futures, because that futures doesn't have much momentum and it can bring Bitcoin lower. RSI is overall selling off. Momentum is dropping. That stochastic is dropping. VWAP does have lower lows with lower highs. That is in a bearish trend, causing momentum to weaken. And as that momentum weakens, money flow will start to pull back and it could go from being green into the red, signifying a bearish trend and that people are selling more than they are buying. That could be people selling off Bitcoin, possibly to roll into some altcoins. Remember, we did get that ETF approval, basically. So stochastic does want to drop away here. RSI is pulling back. VWAP does have consistent lows with lower highs, as starting to create a bearish trend. As we create that bearish trend, momentum will continue lower, and we can see that money flow break from being green, barely green, into the red. So we're clinging to a thread. Over on the 2-hour, stochastic does look like it could round away. RSI does want to pull back. Momentum does have lower lows. Smash the like, we do have lower highs. VWAP is breaking down and the money flow is starting to sell off. So overall, I would exercise caution because this 2-hour is starting to get more bearish. We did push up to this channel. We needed to break and hold above that if we were going to get that double bottom possibility to break us up. We got that rejection. As we got that rejection, we did get a pretty violent sell-off. Stochastic is dropping away, RSI is pulling back, momentum is bearish, and the VWAP is rejecting overall. So we don't look very positive for a rebound yet. Over on this 1 hour here, we are starting to favor a bit more bearish. We did overall break down. We had a manipulation X. So if you saw that, that would have been your clue here to sell off, as we did have those EMAs reject each other and start to carry us lower. Our stochastic does want to round away. RSI is pulling back. VWAP does want to round. We are getting very weak highs with stronger lows. If that continues, that will start to bring momentum lower and money flow could end up selling off here. So over on graph for the daily, we are pushing down to that 300 EMA. So again, that does show why that 300 EMA is a strong area of support resistance. RSI is pulling back. Stochastic wants to round away. Momentum is pushing down with the red dot. Money flow is starting to pull back. And the VWAP does look like it could start to pull back, but it's kind of indecisive. So I would lean more on those lower time frames. If they're more bearish, we will see that VWAP reject, causing a cascading effect. Over on this 4 hour, we could try to draw a descending channel. This descending channel does have connecting highs and lows, so that could be very positive. Remember, not everything that sounds bad is bad. That could push us up right around that 28-cent zone if we can solidify a bounce and break at the next touch to the top. If we get that rejection at the touch to the top, remember, that could push us lower. Stochastic does want to drop down. RSI is weakening. VWAP has lower lows with lower highs, so we do have a bearish trend there, causing momentum to sell off and weakening that money flow. So overall, the 4 hour doesn't look positive, and if the 1 and 2 hour don't continue strength, we will see the 4 hour and daily continue lower. Thanks for joining us. RSI does want to round away. Stochastic does want to reject. VWAP is struggling here, so if that VWAP does get a lower high, we will have a lower high with lower lows. That will be that bearish trend that can bring us lower. Momentum is overall getting lower lows with lower highs as well. Money flow is starting to sell off due to that VWAP and momentum, that yellow wave and blue wave respectively, starting to sell off. Over on our 1 hour, we do have a decent bounce, but we're trying to consolidate here, so I would exercise caution. If we don't get a strong move with some bullish momentum here, we could see that consolidation end up breaking us away, just like this consolidation here did. Stochastic is trying to run up, RSI is trying to pull back, so they aren't really agreeing with each other. But if that stochastic continues forward, RSI will eventually gain strength and help push price action up. VWAP is in the bullish territory, but it's starting to round away, so that's a very weak high. If we do round away and break, it's likely we could end up selling off, coming down to the bottom of our channel, and if that does happen, we would reject this channel and possibly push lower. Remember, we have that 16,316 as our next support area. So I would exercise caution if we do break out of this. Over on Ankr for the daily, we did push down to that support level. That is about the bottom of this channel. We could jump to the 1 hour just to kind of clean that up real quick. So that descending channel did break up. We did get our full move, and then we didn't hold support, and we rejected down to our next support level. That is the level we were warning about. So if we cannot hold here, we will have to look at some other support areas. So jumping back to the 1 day, we did break that value area low here. We'll zoom out a little bit here just so we can see those areas. So we did break that value area low. We have a strong red candle here. If we continue with red candles, we could break down, creating a new fixed range volume profile and possibly retesting previous supports. So we will map those out with our horizontal line. We do have some consolidation right in here. So we have a candle here, a wick here. I like that zone. We have some candle wicks here as well. So that's a pretty strong area of support resistance right around that 30.79, which is almost that 30 even psychological support. If we move over, we do have some support back here as well. And then we also could create a new range right around here. We have some touches back here and some touches here, here, and here. So that's a strong support as well around that 28.83. If we cannot hold off either of those, we can map out some other supports later. So I would exercise caution for a breakdown to those ranges. Our RSI does want to pull back. Stochastic is trying to round. That VWAP does have consistent lows with weak highs. If this continues, momentum will continue to sell off. That will cause money flow to continue to weaken. And as money flow pulls back, that shows people are selling. And if people are selling, price action will drop. Over on the 4 hour, stochastic is dropping off. RSI is following. VWAP does have consistent lows with lower highs. Momentum is dropping down, and the money flow does want to break down. So overall, I would exercise caution here. If we don't get a strong bounce and break above that resistance of our 34.85, we're likely going to see those other support areas that we just mapped out. Over on this 2 hour, we are trying to retest, so this is where we need that bounce. Stochastic does want to pull back. RSI is starting to pull back with it. That stochastic does have a bit of a bullish cross though, so watch if that bullish cross can help propel us forward. If that bullish cross can maintain above 30, we would see RSI gain strength. However, if we do reject that 30 area right around here, just below that RSI and just above our stochastic, then we will see a rejection. Price action would continue lower. The VWAP does have consistent lows. This previous low wave is a little stronger than the one before, and the high wave here is weaker than the one before, so we do have slight favor to the bearish territory. Momentum does have lower lows with lower highs. Money flow is breaking down, so overall I would exercise caution. If that VWAP does not start to hold in a bullish trend, we're likely going to continue lower. Stochastic does want to run forward here on the 1 hour. RSI is pretty flat as that stochastic was favoring bearish. It just broke above that 30, so if it can hold above that 30, we could run up, smash the thumbs up. Momentum does want to gain strength. Money flow is overall pulling back though. So if that VWAP does not maintain higher highs with higher lows from this point, our momentum will continue to favor bearish. Money flow will continue to sell off, and those higher time frames will continue to weaken. That would give us the strength to break the support level. And again, if we break that, our next one's right around 30 cents even. Over on XRP for the daily, sorry, I was trying to zoom out and got hung up on why my mouse wasn't working for me there, but we did end up trying to invalidate by breaking lower. We did push to that 45 support area that we did mention we could push to, so this could be positive that we did pull back to it and try to push forward. We do have the possibility of a break forward still, but I'm just deleting that channel just to help keep this candle a little clearer. We do have a slight wick above this candle as well, so this is a dragonfly candle. If followed by a strong red candle, we could see a bit of a breakdown, but if followed by a strong green candle, we could see a strong run up, try to get back in that channel and push to our 54 and 52 areas. Our RSI is pulling back, stochastic does want to round away. That VWAP is trying to get higher highs, but we are starting to reject and pull back from that neutral area. It's hard to see, we can zoom in. So you are seeing a little bit of a round here. If those lower time frames continue to favor weaker, we will start to sell off. Momentum does want to pull back. money flow is selling off, so overall the daily doesn't look too positive. Over on the 4-hour, we did push up toward that green EMA. We are failing to hold it, so if we cannot break above and hold, it's very likely we would continue lower. Our stochastic is dropping down overall. We will kind of readjust this for you. So stochastic is dropping down. RSI will start to weaken if that stochastic does not make a bounce. Momentum does have consistent lows. VWAP does have consistent lows with lower highs. So that VWAP is in a bearish trend. That bearish trend will cause momentum to continue lower. And as momentum continues lower, money flow could break down. If money flow breaks down on the 4-hour, we likely could continue to those lower support areas. So I would still exercise caution and watch lanes close. Over on the 2-hour here, we could see if we have a descending channel. I don't really see any connecting highs and lows here. We could try to kind of stretch this down. I don't really like how that looks. I'll delete that. So that could be more of that bearish continuation channel. Excuse me a second. Remember, the bearish continuation channel, that's when your highs and lows don't connect. When those highs and lows don't connect, that can drop you lower. But when they do connect, that can help push you forward. Stochastic does want to run up. RSI is trying to push forward. VWAP does have lower lows. I would watch. We are trying to break bullish here. We do want to get consistent highs. It's slightly higher right now, so I would watch. If that VWAP can remain in the bullish territory from here, we could get a decent bounce, but we do have that rejection of that blue EMA. Momentum is dropping down, but if that VWAP can sustain above that neutral, our momentum will gain strength and money flow could start to reverse after some time. Over on the 1-hour, we are struggling with that blue EMA here. If we cannot break above and hold, it's very likely we could continue lower. Stochastic is trying to run up. VWAP is starting to favor a little bullish. It is starting to round away, but that is good. If that VWAP can get a bounce off that neutral area, we could see momentum continue forward and give that money flow strength. However, if that VWAP does break down again, I would watch for consistent lows. If we get consistent lows, momentum would reject away, and that would bring money flow lower. That would then in turn weaken those higher time frames and give us that possibility to push down below that 45 to our 38-35 zone. So over on ALGO here for the daily, we did have that descending triangle. We got about 2/3 of the breakdown for that triangle, so I will delete that triangle, but we do still have our flag. So if total cannot gain strength here and push ALGO up, it's likely we could round away and continue lower. Remember, that would break us below that 1412 support, which we could get hung up and bounce off to around that 1346. RSI does want to pull back. Stochastic is pretty flat. If that stochastic does not gain strength, RSI will continue to pull back, and that will bring price action lower as that RSI breaks below 30. Remember, that would be bearish, and anything below 30 will weaken price action. VWAP is struggling here. We do have several rejections, and we are starting to pull back, so watch lower time frames. If they continue to favor bearish, momentum will continue to weaken, and money flow will continue to pull back. Oops, did not mean to click the 3-hour, meant to click 4. Over on the 4-hour, we are overall starting to push down. Stochastic does want to drop away. RSI is pulling back. VWAP does have lower lows with lower highs, so we do have a bearish trend on that VWAP, causing momentum to drop down, and that is making money flow weaken. So overall, we do have more selling pressure on this 4-hour due to money flow, that red wave, being more bearish and pulling us down. We are also struggling with that green EMA here. So if we can't break and hold above that EMA, we would continue to tumble down. Over on the 2-hour, we are starting to pull back after trying to break that EMA. So this could be a rejection. If it's followed by a strong red candle, we could create a rounding top that would drop us lower. RSI does want to pull back. Stochastic is starting to round. Momentum is pushing down. VWAP does want to curl away just below that neutral. So if that VWAP gets a lower high, we will have lower highs with lower lows. That will be a bearish trend to bring momentum lower into the bearish territory and cause money flow to continue to remain bearish, weakening those higher time frames and possibly giving us the strength to see that breakdown. So over on the 1-hour here, I zoomed a little too far there. RSI is starting to pull back. Stochastic does want to run up though, so if that stochastic can remain above 30, RSI can bounce and bring price action forward. We are retesting that green EMA, so if we can bounce and hold here, we could retest that blue EMA and then try to create a cascading effect to push forward. Momentum does want to gain strength. VWAP is a little indecisive here. We are breaking bullish, but we're rounding away. That break isn't very strong, so as we start to round here, we could end up breaking down and we could end up selling off. Our money flow is overall pulling back, so if that VWAP does break down, money flow will remain bearish and that will weaken those higher time frames, giving us some momentum for that breakdown. Thank you for watching tonight's video. I hope you have a great night.